Everyone, this is the um, meeting of the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee by Zoom. This is going to be hopefully a short meeting. We wanted to call this meeting, although we normally don't meet in the summer. We failed to finish some business that we wanted to address at our previous meeting in June. So it'll be a short agenda. I see Bill Graham isn't here. I'm not sure we have anybody that has the native land acknowledgement. And if not, we can bypass that. Let me know if anyone has it in front of them. I don't, by the way.
I have it handy if you'd like me to share.
Why don't you read it?
Unless someone else already does?
I don't have.
Okay. Okay. In keeping with our values of equity and inclusion and to support those who experience marginalization, this evening's meeting will begin with a Native American land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the ancestral homelands of the Namkag and Agawam people. Historical evidence shows that the Namkag and Agawam were peaceful in their relationship with European settlers. However, their population depleted rapidly due to smallpox and other pandemic Old World diseases, unknowingly introduced by earlier European colonizers to the East Coast. To honor the Namkag and Agawam communities, along with any other Indigenous peoples who inhabited these lands, now known as Danvers, Massachusetts, and who may be lost to history, let us take a moment to recognize the past, present, and future of Indigenous peoples and reflect on our own roles within settler colonialism. We acknowledge these ancestral grounds we have collectively gathered upon and support the resilience and strength that Indigenous people have shown worldwide.
Thank you, Jasmine. Item number 3 is citizens' queries. I don't know if we have anyone hooked into the link tonight. I would doubt it since we've had a little problem getting going. But we'll, if there are any, please let us know. And apparently, there are none. I do have, we'll give the opportunity for the liaisons to speak if they have anything that they would like to say at this point. We have Pastor Douglas, Lieutenant Rob Sullivan, and Eric Crane. Anyone have anything to report that we should know about? If not, we'll move on. Please feel.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right, please feel free, and I think I'm correct in this, Jasmine, that the liaisons can offer opinions on this if we decide on the reflections aspect of the discussions. I doubt very seriously whether we're going to have any votes tonight. If we do, obviously the members, we have a quorum and we can't vote. I'm gonna turn this over to Johan pretty quickly, but just give you a little debrief. Some of you might have been with us in June, and we did discuss the reflections part of it. We discussed a little bit about the mission statement. Not that we were going to change the mission statement in any way, and we can do this at any point of any meeting in the future. But we were very generally pleased with the present mission statement. And there were some suggestions that folks had. Are we all set with notes now from the recorder? Is she in?
Michelle made it in and we're good. And also because DCAT is here and recording, we will also be able to kick her back a recording for the brief points 1 and 2 that she missed, which you didn't miss much, Michelle.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Michelle. I also want to make note that we had not voted on minutes since I think May, and we're going to hold off until September. We'll do a whole package of minutes and move on. All right, now the reflections part of it. I think we centered in a lot of discussion was over. If correct me, Johan, jump in at any time. But I think we talked about what type of events we wanted to run and maybe what events we may put on pause or we weren't sure. And if you look back at your the sheet that Jasmine had sent out, on the back page is where all the meat and potatoes were, so to say, because these events reflect budget requirements. And that's where we are right now. We're in a situation where our budget is small. basically our budget does not cover even the Martin Luther King event. So of the 4 major events that we've had, Celebration, King, Black Celebration Month in February, which Johan helped, and Shilpa did a great job with that, and then Pride. Those seem to be the 4 that we're focused on right now. And I'll turn it over to Johan right now.
Thank you, Paul. So where we sort of left off with this discussion was we were going around the room and everyone was going through their reflection sheet. First of all, does everybody have that sheet, the reflection sheet? Most people do. Okay, so for anybody that wasn't present or didn't get an opportunity to, I would like to give you the opportunity to share from your list which events what your selections were, which events you thought we should keep, change, or pause. So I only think Dr. Charlie was not present and neither was Donna. So if either of you want to, oh, and Miss Shilpa, I'm so sorry, I forgot about you. So I thought you were there, in spirit you were. I want everybody who wasn't there, in any order you choose, to go ahead and go down your list, and it looks like this, and share with us which events you want to, what you think about the events.
Johan, was Jorge present? I can't
Jorge
remember.
was present.
Okay, just making sure, because I know he told me he wasn't going to be here, so I also have his thoughts in an email.
So Dr. Charlie, Shilpa, or Donna, I think some of you might be reading the sheet now as well.
Well,
Yeah.
I read through this before. Do we have to cut some of them? Is that what are we?
I think the conversation is about whatever your thoughts are. Essentially, number one, do you feel that it's feasible for the committee to continue to do everything the way that it's been going? Number 2 option is, do you feel that the committee is doing all these events, but we need to change the way we do it? And then number 3 is, are there certain events that you think should be put on a pause? So, there's various options in each category. Oh, Shilpa, you're on mute. No, we don't hear you. I'm sorry.
Unplug your headphones and plug them back in.
Oh yeah, that could work.
Technology.
We don't hear you, and you're not muted, right? Donna, while Shilpa's trying to fix that, do you want to continue saying what you were saying?
Oh, I just like the events that we've done. Probably some of them can use revision. Black Excellence is really new, so I think we just should keep going forward with it. Juneteenth, unfortunately, I keep missing it because I'm out of town, so I can't speak to that, although I think it's an important, significant event. Race Amity Day, I just went to that. That seems to be more Lauren's thing. I know we participated or co-hosted, Jasmine, if I'm correct. And Celebration, that went really well. I think that we should keep. And I think the menorah lighting, because that isn't a big, that's not a big drain on us, because the Chabad House does so much of that, and the fire department now is involved. And I guess police have a big say in that because they come out too. So I think certainly, I mean, MLK has kind of just been moving forward on its own, but I would like to maybe see that change somehow. But I haven't been involved in that committee in a couple of years. So is that Race Amity Day? If we're going to continue to do that, that needs some work.
Thank you.
Did you want the advocacy too, or wait on that?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. I do like the cultural read aloud support program. I think that should stay. I think it's necessary in our school district. And I don't know, I think I saw Eric here a minute ago. I don't know if he's still there, but, and maybe we should take a slightly more active role, even just in attending, maybe some of the school board meetings, to see what we can do to possibly help with these types of, like DEI kinds of things, issues in the school. The HRIC scholarship, I have mixed feelings about that. I think it's great that we do it, and I think the kids really like it, especially the recipients are really happy. We don't have a great deal of money, but from what I understand, that's what most people are giving out. The living room conversations I thought were great, but again, I didn't see a lot of participation in that. Danvers Cares, I have to say, I don't know much about that at all. The ice cream social and the welcome dinner, those were fine, but I don't know if those are supposed to be annual events. I don't know what our role is in helping the emergency assistance families. And the Raise the Age campaign, I am not sure either about that. I have some questions about that in my mind. I know what it is. So I don't know if I'm saying what you want to hear, if I'm being thorough
Yeah.
enough. Okay.
No, I mean, I think some of the conversation when we had around the things that were under advocacy, some of us weren't really sure if all of it was advocacy or some of it might have been just everything else that we do. And you make a good point about some of the things not necessarily being annual.
Yeah.
But just trying to figure out the bandwidth when you look at this piece of paper and you see, I don't know, 15 events. Just trying to figure out the bandwidth, and you see we don't even have 15 people on here,
Yeah.
for our small group here, and just trying to be realistic, that sort of thing,
No,
helping
I
out.
agree.
Go ahead, Shilpa. Let me see if we can help hear you, because I don't. Do you want to try now? We don't hear anything. I don't know if you're frozen now, actually.
And I don't even see her on my screen.
She's on my screen, but she's frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, now she just popped up in a box, but I don't see her.
Maybe she should log out and log back in. Can anybody text her? Reverend Douglas, were you raising your hand? Yeah.
I guess when I would look at the list of events, I think there are so many that are significant, but I think the biggest thing is not realizing that they're all HRIC events that we're totally responsible for, and continuing to seek out other stakeholders in the community to align with us when it comes time to do the events. Now, I know that's easier said than done, but I think that that's a great hope to be able to find other resources. Like Donna was just describing how the menorah lighting has kind of stemmed into including others involved in that event. In Martin Luther King celebration has stemmed into having others join with us. Yes, we end up doing the lion's share of the planning for that, but there's other stakeholders in the community, the school community, and others all join in, and there's so many other folks that are all part of that celebration. And I know also with Pride, the police department and through Rob, as well as other volunteers. And so I think if we work at broadening the scope of seeking out other stakeholders and really make attempts to do that, just a few thoughts on that, because it's really hard to kind of weed through and pull things out. And yes, it gets real burdensome because the committee is not that large and it gets to be really taxing. And so maybe do some trimming, but yet also really make an attempt in this next year to really ask the question, who are the stakeholders and how do we incorporate them in our work?
Thank you. And I will say that in the first meeting, I threw out a couple options of who to partner with on some of the events.
Okay.
And MLK, I guess we consider the high school a partner. Could we have more input from them, that's something that we could decide for this year in terms of them also having a committee and also having people that are meeting regularly and that sort of thing. So basically what I did was I went through and I thought about either if we have a school partnership for some of these events or we have a library partnership, but a split where there would be another entity where they would have some volunteers that would support us as well.
Yeah, if I can just quickly say that it's already been stated, so I'll just say again, it's 14 events that seem to all rest on the shoulders of HRIC to initiate, facilitate, coordinate, and execute. And I think that that's unreasonable. It's too many events for us to do. These are certainly all important and significant matters that should be recognized. But if we're doing these ourselves and we're not having a significant number of people who are coming, it means that we're not connecting with the constituencies that we think who could be deeply concerned about these matters and should be collaborating and coordinating with us to do it. So it seems though to me that the sensible thing for us to consider is to take these events and do some research on who are the specific groups that are associated with these events, determine whether or not they are willing to work with us to facilitate and execute them. And if they are, we can participate. But if they're not, I don't think it makes sense for us to carry out an event that has 40 people who show up for it, and it's taking us weeks and weeks worth of work and effort and energy, and we're the primary people that are there. The folks that are directly facilitated and associated with HRAC are trying to come to all of these events. They are making up the majority of not the majority, but a significant number of the people at these events. So I think that that's too much for us to take on as a small group.
Just to provide some context and numbers, because I have kept a loose track of numbers and attendance.
Excellent.
And I think currently our smallest attended event is Juneteenth. Last year there was 40 people about. I think this year the crowd, and if you were there, let me know if I am mistaken, but there was definitely less this year. I think that had to do with timing. However, most of our events are upwards of 60 people. And in fact, things like MLK and Black Excellence, Celebration, and Pride. Well, Pride has like 75 to 100 last year. But the rest of the other ones I named are upwards of 150. So these are, again, just numbers that I have of the types of turnout that we're having at these events.
That's a good data point. Thank you for mentioning that. So what's the pop? Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say.
Sorry,
Go
to your
ahead.
point, Dr. Charlie.
You got it.
Okay. So I just wanted to pick up on what Dr. Charlie was saying and the conversation we've had in June. And can you hear my dog, or does it? Can you hear him a little bit?
Okay.
He wants to join the committee. So in addition to finding sort of like-minded groups that could sponsor in the town, I think in looking at the numbers of folks that come out, it's like, how do we sort of draw more people, right? How do we not just share the work with others, but how do we actually draw more people? And one of the things I've wondered is if some folks, I as a member of this committee would like to suggest that our events are not just for people who are kind of in our choir, right, and sing off the same hymnal page or whatever, right? That what we are about and the work that we do is for the entire community. But I think that sometimes the way in which we talk about the events, or people might feel like it's not for them. So if not in this next year, I think like a kind of longer term planning is like, how could we kind of be engaged with events that also where we're kind of like an unlikely, like we may just support somebody else that's doing an event. It's not an HRIC event, but like, how can we be present there and then be drawing more folks into the work that we're doing? So I'm not talking about adding more events, but just thinking strategically how we show up.
I agree.
You're muted.
Thank you. Dr. Charlie, did you go down the list and could you kindly tell us which events you would want to keep or change or pause?
My problem with doing that is that all of these events that have been put on this list are things that have been brought to us by constituents who feel that these are important things that ought to be celebrated or recognized. And so for me to say, because I may not be that much connected with, associated with some things that are on this list, therefore I don't want to do it, I don't think is a helpful thing for me to do, to be honest with you.
That's fair.
However, to go back to the point that I was raising before, if folks are coming to us on HRIC and they're saying, we would like you to represent us and help to facilitate an event that celebrates one of the 14 things that are on the list that I have, whether it's events or advocacy activities, then I think we should, take seriously the concern that's been brought to our attention, and then try to facilitate and engage people who are accompany the people who bring these things to our attention. I don't think it's fair for someone to come to us and say, well, we ought to do race amity, and then not help organize, facilitate, and bring people to the event and help advertise in our community, or give us the resources so that we can do these things at the level and with the extent of involvement that we'd like to see actually take place. So I just think that we're under capitalized to do some of the events that we're being asked to do, because it takes advertising, it takes resources, it takes organizing people, sometimes paying people to come to help present at these events. So I mean, that's not to diminish the importance of the event. It's simply to say, to do the event, it has to, if we're going to do it through HRIC, we need to be able to do it with the quality with the quality and resources necessary to do it appropriately, to bring an audience and facilitate the engagement of the community. And I just don't think that some of these events have allowed that to happen. I don't want to eliminate them. I want us to determine whether or not we think, in consultation with the people who are bringing these things to our attention, we can orchestrate and manage these events so that they're successful and we feel comfortable in doing it. If not, we shouldn't do it.
Well, just for the record, because everybody wasn't at the last meeting, I put the first 3 partnership with the high school / school district, and the last 3 I put partnership with the library, except I didn't partner anything for Juneteenth because it's North Shore Juneteenth that comes in for that one. So if we start with the kind of equal other committee, that's a good place to start in terms of bigger numbers for these, for this large number of items on the list. Shilpa hasn't come back, huh?
She did. She's here.
Oh.
Oh,
I see.
girl, your sound still is not working.
Yeah. Okay.
If you have not already, looked at your, I'll message you. Carry on.
Do you want to, if you want to type into us anything that you want to say about the events, then we can kind of. Do you want to say something, Paul? You're muted. You're still muted, Paul. I wish I could unmute people the way that you do in
Yes.
Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't do that. That's why I haven't muted anyone who hasn't been speaking, because I can't unmute them, and I know some of you can't find your.
I think it's
button.
at the top right-hand corner of your screen, Paul.
Next to the camera.
Oh, little picture of a microphone just to the left of the red leave button.
There you
That's what it
go.
looks like on mine anyway.
One.
I hate computers.
Ah,
I don't think they're none too fond of me either.
AI, that's not even you that's speaking to us, Dave.
Right.
That's a
If we
bot.
want to be swearing more, probably.
That's the future. You're gonna see a little
That's for sure.
thing that looks like me speaking and not me. We still don't hear you, Paul. We see your mouth moving though.
Paul, oh, you're here.
All right,
We're here
I'll
live.
leave that.
Yay,
You hear me
did it.
now?
You did
Yeah.
it. You did it. Woohoo.
Okay, let me just, I was at the meeting, so I ran through everything as Johan mentioned too, and I basically saw 4 major events, and I consider them heavy lifts. All right, they require a budget, and it's the last thing I want to do is suggest that we can't do anything because we don't have any money. But the truth of the matter is, I don't think anybody joined the committee to be fundraisers. So based on what Jasmine just said, as far as turnouts, etc., I'm in favor of keeping the 4, what I consider the 4 heavy lift events. Menorah lighting, I considered a light lift. I didn't know if there's someone mentioned to me that there was an expense, and I'm not sure, maybe Jasmine knows this, that we have to actually
I
pay to have
did,
the.
yes. We pay Shabbat of North Shore to rent their menorah.
Okay, so is that a reasonable expense? Not
I'll dig for numbers, but come to think of it, Dee always handled that, so I don't necessarily. I'll look. My gut says it was less than 1,000, but I'll look.
Oh, okay.
So, excuse me, so Paul, what are the 4 major events?
My
you just
events with MLK.
cited?
Well, first we're going to start out in the calendar year, basically, with the Celebration. All right, and that is in October, I believe. And then I would go to January, which would be Martin
Okay.
Luther King.
Uh-huh.
Then I would be in favor of Black Excellence, which is in February. And then I would finish up with Pride in June. Now,
Okay.
Juneteenth, I think Juneteenth, my experience with Juneteenth was a light lift. I'm not sure, I think it needs some revisions. I think some things have to change. I'll say this, the day after Juneteenth was celebrated, I looked at the Salem News, and Salem, I think I've told this to some of you folks, city of Salem had the event, and there were 15, 16, 17 of their flags flying Juneteenth. We didn't have one of them flown in front of town hall, so I would suggest.
Correction, we did. Fact check. We had 1 flag. We did not raise it on the
okay.
town flagpole of the community. We
Right.
had it on a 6-foot flag, which is what the president of North Shore Juneteenth pointed out. Just fact checking. But other than that, everything Paul's saying is correct.
Okay. I don't see that as a problem. I don't see that event as when I say problem, it's not a heavy lift, etc. for me. All right. Race Amity, which is what we just had Saturday. I wanted to put that myself on pause. I'm not sure. I think didn't that come out of Beverly, started out of Beverly, and then Jasmine, you can help me out with the background on that.
Yep, so the background on that is the North Shore Race Amity organization has a history of tapping different communities, and the organization that pulls this together on behalf of North Shore Race Amity is the Heathmere Center for Cultural Engagement. So you all know Lauren. We were tapped to do this for the first time last year. Prior to that, it had been in Beverly, and last year we felt it was a success, so we plan to do it again this year. I'm hearing a lot of feedback about that one being the one that people are on the fence about. I also just want to elevate based on what Dr. Charlie was putting forward, that when it comes to support and promotion, I would say that event probably the most arguably out of any of the other events has the fiscal sponsorship, because Lauren goes out and gets the grants to do that, and it's a low cost for us. She supports promotions. She herself sends out the the press releases for that, as well as she brings volunteers from Beverly to help and make that happen. And so I'm saying that not to sway, this is just me outing information, this is not my opinion. This is the experience I've had working with Heathmere as a partner on this event, as opposed to some of the other ones where the partnership like the lift is more on HRIC than whoever we're partnering with.
Jasmine, could you I'm sorry, Paul, I didn't want to interrupt, but just quickly.
No, go ahead,
Why
Doctor.
why did we do that in the parking lot and not at the library, which would have been, using the gazebo and the chairs and the grass and the trees, and it was 100 degrees out there. People,
Yep,
I mean,
great question. So the decision to shift the location, while we love the library location, it is not visible and it's not necessarily accessible either. People cannot navigate that area in a motorized wheelchair. We had also heard of the success in the past from the farmers market on that lot. And so we did attempt it to try a new location that was very visible, and some of that visibility did draw in some traffic. Whereas, with the library lawn, because of how big it is, the sound also travels. So it's harder to hear when we use PA systems, and you can't even hear the music from the road. So the parking lot kind of pushed people closer together. Of course, like the weather, not ideal. So maybe it's not a summer spot, but in terms of visibility as a location, barring all police activity in the background, you can ask us about that outside of the meeting. It was an attempt to try something different that was going to be accessible and visible.
Thank you.
All
I'm
right.
seeing a question in the chat from Karen. The event moved in the past. Now that it's been here for 2 years, is it likely to move to another town next year? There hasn't been word of that. I was already, based on the feedback I've been hearing from you all about that event in particular, I was already gearing up to advocate, like have that conversation with Lauren about switching it up and taking a break from Danvers next year. And I'm happy to do that. And it might just be synergetic anyway, where she was thinking of continuing to move it somewhere else. Like maybe it's in Beverly, but we still make a point to show up as a committee, at least to support and be visible.
And I will say, like, if I could say that I personally think more of our events should be in central locations where the town can float in and float out. I've been saying this since last year. Even for MLK, I feel, that Maple Street area where Danvers Family Festival is taking place, I would love for our events, some of our events that are in more in the time frame that it's a climate friendly time frame that we could do it, even Celebracion on Maple Street, because we want people to see, if it's not on their radar, you're going to get a cup of coffee and you're like, oh wow, there's something going on here, and maybe I can partake and enjoy this, even though I didn't know and it wasn't on my radar. And I do feel that when they're in some of these other places, that's a little difficult. So I like the farmers market location and the Maple Street location. Now, Mother Nature has not been nice to us over the last couple of weeks, and we don't really have control over that. But in theory, I love the being in the middle of the community with the events.
Where can you hear me?
Yes.
Where is the Maple Street location? Is it just the Maple Street
It's just Maple Street, like in front of Kathmandu where Danvers Family Festival
okay.
is. I was on Celebración last year and I was like, I would love it if Celebración was there. You know, like come out of your coffee shop and join the salsa. Hello, like here we are. I would love it. I don't know how difficult it is to get these locations, but I think that that would be the move that would help these events really grow and transition into more people from the community floating in.
Just to answer your question, Johan, that a space like that would not be difficult. I remember we kind of floated it last year with Celebración in particular. The challenge with that location right now is how spread out it is. So the 150 people that we have for Celebración in the atrium right now, because of the way it's laid out, it does have, it looks denser, which means people are interacting and passing one another by. If you open up Maple Street, 150 people on Maple Street are very spread apart. So you're not necessarily getting that engagement and interaction. And so the conversation I've been having and like checking in about is, okay, like if we do like the smallest slice of Maple Street we can get, how many people minimum would we need there to make it look full? And so that's just kind of what we've been thinking about. It doesn't mean it's not possible, but it's right now it's a little bit of a numbers game and like how we want it to look publicly.
Lieutenant Sullivan, were you going to say something?
There's a great spot that could be used downtown if it's kept to there's a parking lot that the town owns right in front of CVS. So it's easy to block off the parking lot where the flagpole is. So
Yeah.
there's a natural barrier there. The sidewalk comes up with a brick walkway to keep the traffic apart from us as we're celebrating. But it's visible and it's a bit smaller instead of using the entire square. And that's a very easy spot to close off.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, great suggestion.
I wasn't at Celebration last year. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It was held at the high school, correct?
Mhm.
I would prefer what I believe Johan and Lieutenant Sullivan are suggesting, a part of the downtown, if we can cordon it off. If I say this on public TV, I'm probably going to get 50 emails, but I've always thought about, it doesn't matter. I just think they always talk about redoing downtown and making downtown more presentable. And I always throw out, well, why don't you mall it off certain sections? Don't allow traffic. A lot of towns do that. It's towns and cities. But that's what you're really talking about, trying to have an area where you can handle the traffic and handle folks mingling and not be in trouble.
Correct.
I think
During
Karen's,
COVID, remember, Paul, during COVID, we had the lawn chairs, we had the, what do you call it? The outdoor
Pop-up park.
seating there. Yeah, we had the pop-up park and it was perfect. And essentially what we're doing is a temporary pop-up park for an event. You know, maybe there's some sort of seating there. The food vendors are still there. We're still playing our music, all of that stuff. And you still get that scenario where somebody who's, coming by from getting their coffee could join us,
Right. There's no problem with it. I don't have any problem with it. I think it's a great idea. At least we also use it for the menorah now. We moved the menorah lighting down right to that area. So we've got a little bit of an area. I'd love to see it expanded. I don't think it will be in our lifetime, at least mine. But I think that's a good suggestion.
Also, just elevating the chat once again, Karen dropped in a thought about wondering who holds the Danvers hardware space right now, and if like the possibility of putting an event in there while it's vacant. I don't have the answers to that. She also mentioned the Maple Street Church parking lot because it has exposure to the rail trail and Maple Street. Yeah, just elevating what's in the chat for those who can't see.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I like the Maple Street Church parking lot actually as well. It's a little bit out of the craziness. The good thing about where the CVS is it's in the middle of town and everybody will see it even if they don't attend. Obviously, if we're only in that small parking lot, there's a possibility that people just sit and watch while they're drinking their coffee, which might be a little weird. But, you know, I hope that they will join us. You know, it's free. So
That's about it for me. As far as the advocacy, I continue to want to support the scholarship, and I like the living room conversations. I think that you didn't have them. You're not having them this year, Jasmine?
So remember the distinction between we had the summer series of Let's Talk About Race, which was just an equity and inclusion independent thing. And then we had the living room conversation, Seeing and Living as White, which was Heathmere coming in the fall and the winter time to do that series for us. So again, that was a low lift. Like she came in and she did the promotion for that. However, the flip side was that I did not see much committee participation in that series, even though it was promoted as a partnership.
Okay. That's my opinion on these issues. Johan, that's it.
yeah, I will say I think I mentioned this. I pretty much in the last meeting I put all of those things on pause under advocacy except for the HRIC scholarship, and it's primarily just because of bandwidth.
Because of what? Excuse me?
Bandwidth or lack thereof, I should say.
Yeah. Okay.
But in any case, let me just go down the bottom of this and see what we've done. So we've prioritized which events we want to keep and why. We've talked about the advocacy section. Did we already talk about what concrete, tangible supports we need to continue this work? I know we started talking about partnerships, but is there anything else that people think we need from tangible supports perspective?
Well, let me just say, there's two things I feel. We need resources, and that's both physical help from the town, one way or another, beyond just Jasmine. That's number one. Number two is we need financial support, because I've said it time and again. We have very, very limited resources, and I don't think that we as a committee want to have to go through fundraising. You know, I've done a little bit of it in my career, and I know Dr. Charles is always doing it, and I'm not sure what other folks are caught doing, but to me, that's not why we're here. We're trying to help the town and do the right thing by the town. And the town has an obligation to support us both with human resources and financial resources. So at some point, those issues are going to be addressed. I plan to have a meeting at some point with Mr. Bartha and whoever he would like to bring into the meeting and see where we stand. But that's basically where I'm coming from, and it reflects any, all, or none of these 14 items that we talked about. So where we go from here, I don't really know, but we have to make some hard decisions based on what we're told will be supported. And I don't mind pushing it. I don't mind coming right out and saying it. I don't think that there's any question about how we've worked hard to try to bring things to the public eye, whatever the issue may be. And we will continue to try to do that. We may have to do it in a different way. So I'll leave it at that at this point, and leave it up to the committee to make some, the folks on the committee to voice their opinions.
Again, I just want to elevate the chat. Shilpa's calling me, and we're gonna see if I put her on speaker, if we can hear her thoughts. Can we test this?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm sorry about all the inconvenience. Johan, did you want me to?
Shilpa, you have the floor.
Thanks. All right, so this is how I feel about our events. I do not want us to be an event planning committee, which it seems is what we've turned into. And even when we have the subcommittees, we have participants, it's not active participation. And that's not helpful because it unfairly falls on a few people to do all the work for all the events. And I'm frankly burned out. And I don't know if other people who've been on these events feel the same. So, and we also need money. We cannot do these events the way we want them to if we don't have the money, if we don't have the support, if we don't have the bodies. And also, I feel like a lot of our advertising for our events are very policed. So before they're shared, or it's either 2 days before the event, we can't keep going like that. I think the events we do are great and they bring in people, and that's awesome. But as a committee, not everybody is a participating member. And I feel that if we can't be participating members, we need to move aside and let you folks in who can participate. Yeah, that's a lot. And I'm just going to be very frank.
I can't hear Johan.
Sorry, did you cut any events from your list or pause any events or change them?
So MLK, I think we should keep. And Juneteenth, I love that we work with the Juneteenth Association. But again, promoting that event has been difficult, as we saw by the people who attended this year. There weren't even a lot of HRIC committee members there. And I would really like us to move forward where we are actually raising the flag. And that would require some more discussion. There are some things that are on there that are low lifts. In all of this, I lost my form.
Black excellence, pride.
Yeah, Black excellence is fairly new, but again, I would love to keep that event. That was a great event. I think that one and Pride were two of our best events in celebration last year. I think these events do a lot for the community. But again, it's just pulling them off. I'm feeling a frustration there, so I'm not sure how to articulate that. I just don't think we have the manpower, the bandwidth, the money. So we have to seriously think about this, maybe look at it from a different point of view, but some things have to drastically change.
I just wonder if we had a partner. Sorry, if we had a partner like the library, could they contribute some budget from there? No,
I would not expect anything from the library.
Okay, but even with the high school with MLK, I don't know how much it impacts their budget, but they do contribute things that save us money. So I just wonder,
I think we could have a conversation with Dan Bauer and Mary Wormers. I think that would be, we can go from there in terms of having school participation with MLK. But with other events, we have to find other collaborators within the town. We cannot keep doing it the way we're doing it if we want to keep these events.
Can I say something? Never mind, I lost that train of thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think I'm just coming in to again voice the view that it may be the case that we can facilitate events by saying if somebody wants to be in collaboration with HRIC, for example, to take leadership for Pride, then we can support them. We can support someone who wants to take the leadership for the Pride event. And we're certainly willing and able and would be delighted to do everything that we can do to make sure that that's, a great and successful event. But I don't think if it's just simply the view that HRIC is going to do it, no one's going to step forward. That's not the way people work. If they think someone else is going to do it, they will not step forward and take leadership and ownership to make the event take place. So I think as we're talking about these events, maybe a little bit of our time trying to identify who are the voices that are asking us to do these events, and then trying to identify within those voices folks who are willing to take some responsibility for coordinating, facilitating, organizing, advertising, and executing these events. I think that's how you build constituency and involvement.
If I could maybe jump in here at this point, I know when we had our last meeting, I made the comment that we needed to get the advocacy groups that want these events to help on them, because we just can't do it alone. And I think I'm hearing the same thing from everybody here tonight, and put a lot more eloquently than I did it last month. But we're a small group. I wish I could give more time to committees. Unfortunately, I have way too many irons in the fire, and I just do not have the time to volunteer for a lot of committees. And I know everybody else is just as busy. So if we can't get outside assistance from groups that want these events, I don't see how we can do them all ourselves. I think we need to reach out to the community and get some support if we're going to continue to do these events.
Oh, could I say something?
Yep.
I tend to agree. I'm sorry. I'm the chair. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to be very inconspicuous. Let me say this. What group wants Martin Luther King? I mean, what group wants Pride? What group wants Celebration? What group wants Black History Month? You know who wants it? The town wants it. The town wants it, okay? So we give it back to the town, and the young lady sitting to my right on my screen is going to end up having everything thrown in her basket. That's not going to work. Well, the town has a lot of resources beyond just the director of DEI. And I think that's that's a start. I think you're totally right, Charles. Who wants it? David, who wants it? Who's willing beyond us? Go ahead, Jasmine. I see you getting ready.
So this is a lot. I have a lot of feelings, and I really am just trying to be objective and just stand as a support and let you all figure it out. And there's a lot here. I think the first thing is, this conversation about leadership and who is going to do it. And what I can tell you is I similarly have felt the pressure that we need to do all of this. And in situations where many of you did not have the capacity, it did all end up in my plate. And that especially happened when I first arrived, and I did not have support. And in some ways, I didn't really have support from the committee either. Things that were recurring events that you all had been doing for many years. When I arrived, like the Independence Day, I was told last minute that I needed to make that happen, and I was the only person who did not know what the traditions were. That was very hard when I first arrived. And I think consistently throughout, I appreciate, Paul, clearly we've been talking because that's the first time the acknowledgement in a public meeting has been that when this committee says the town needs to do more, that does end up meaning me, not because it should, but because that's where the work goes. And that has been a factor partially in my burnout. And I hate the idea of taking away any events, but to elevate Shilpa's point once more, the leadership and sharing of the work has not been there. And I wholeheartedly understand what capacity challenges are, because we all have lives. And we've created other mechanisms for people to get involved in different ways or to reimagine their own participation on this committee. And we did that so that we could still keep connections, but honor changing capacities and what people are willing and able to do. And then I also just kind of want to throw a wrench, because I do think it is a good question of who is asking us to do these things. The flip side of that is the reason why a Black Excellence event is important is because I don't think that necessarily, I wouldn't even go so far as to say our Black community said that they wanted this necessarily. I think that Johan was able to find people who were like, yeah, this would be cool. And a group of predominantly Black women from this community and outside stepped up to do it as a way of pulling in other Black people in this community to feel like, oh, look, the town does see us. So I think some of the reasons why we do this, it's not because those populations are asking, but the reasons why those demographics are not asking is because they do not see themselves represented by committees. They do not see the town doing things that speaks to their interests. When the town hosts or when other events happen in the town, their food, their music, their presence is not represented in them. And so that's the only thing I would throw in as a wrench as to the who is asking us to do it. The hope would be that that does lead to building bandwidth. And I do think that, you know, having Johan here is a testament to some of that, right? Like she started out, she saw Celebración was happening and now she's here. Like, I don't know if that's how the story goes, but like, that's kind of my point is these events matter because they're showing that representation, which is hoping with the hope that it's going to yield more community support. So those are just, I mean, that's a lot. I'm coming in hot. I apologize. But these are just different things I have to observe because it has been a lot of work, and I'm hearing you all saying how much work it's been for you all, and all of the work that you have been doing has ultimately still had to go through me. And you're talking about 3 major community events in a month. Last year with June, this year, 3 major events in 6 weeks. Like you're talking about a lot of things and a lot of wherever balls have been dropped by you all, whether or not you realize it when you show up to the events and everything looks nice. Hello, I am the man behind the curtain. Surprise. So I apologize because I wanted to let you all do this, but this is me kind of advocating for myself in this conversation as well. I think there are some challenging decisions that need to be made. And I will stop talking now.
Okay, now, go ahead, Johan.
You
I was
muted.
say since Shilpa had her hand up and you had the phone for Shilpa, if Shilpa could say what she had wanted to say.
Yeah, I agree with everything Jasmine is saying, and I think we're going about this where we should be supporting Jasmine. Jasmine is not supporting us because a lot of it does fall on her plate unfairly, and we need to take more ownership. We need to be present. If we want to do these events, we need to identify partners because it just all falls into Jasmine. And I think she's a department of one that does a lot of different things in this town. And we as the HRIC need to be there to support Jasmine. I just want to amplify that and I want to vocalize that because I think it's really important that we start thinking about that as a committee.
I could say one thing I'd like to add, and it's come to my attention that we have an 11-member committee that we have 9. So we're still looking for 2 members. But I'd like to have you folks that are here, I think we have 8 of us here, think about this possibility that some way, somehow, when you come onto this committee or when you are part of it as you are now, that you automatically are on a committee. If we decide to do this, now we keep talking about heavy lifts and maybe getting more support from other folks that would take the pressure off. But the way it's been in the past, these 4 events are heavy lifts. And I don't see why we can't say to new members or present members, somehow, some way, you've got to be on one of these committees, and we're going to rotate through if possible. In other words, I've been on MLK for a long time, all right? Or Johan just started the Black Appreciation event. That as a new member coming on, you have to be on one of those committees. If you don't volunteer, you're appointed to it, okay? And if possible, if let's say it's a 3-person committee, you'll rotate every year as to who's heading up that subcommittee, that organizational committee. And then after you've done your 3 years, you can move someplace else. Now, it may sound a little cumbersome. I don't think it's a big, not for 11 intelligent people to handle that type of an organizational scheme. And it's just something I wanted to throw out to you. And it may not work, you may not be in favor of it, but I'd like to have some discussion, not tonight. We've been at this for a while now. I don't know where we're going as a committee on this whole thing. I'm gonna have to sit down with Johan and go over what her thoughts were. And I want to sit down with Jasmine and anybody that wants to sit down with me. I'm probably the only one that's got all the time in the world. So it doesn't matter. And I've got a great office. It's right at Brothers. Come on in and see me anytime. So the more people I get there, the happier I am. All right. But Jasmine, if you've got anything to discuss further or anything I've just said, speak up, because I'm not sure we can come up with any solutions tonight, but we've got to get going somewhere down the line, either do or don't, or decide where we want to go. So
I need to hear which Johan, and this is, tossing the ball back to Johan, but I need to hear if there are any concrete, tangible supports you might need to continue this work. And I need to know, and I need you to think about this specifically. So not just like the town, like who is the town, right? Like I need you to be thinking about, is there something you need more specifically from me? Is there something that this committee needs to talk, like connect in smaller groups offline, perhaps even about what is the ask of even town leadership? Is it, looking at the events that we're doing, oh, maybe this is something we can do with this other town department, whatever that is. But I need something concrete. I know we do a lot of brainstorming and we get up here, but I really need us to focus and pull the ideas from the sky, like out and get something like down, so that there's a path forward, because this conversation, we could bring it back. Like Johan could facilitate this conversation every meeting for the next 6 months. But if we don't bring it down to the tangible, that's not a direction.
Johan, can I say something?
Sure.
What Jasmine's talking about, we have to hone in. We have to hone in, and we're going to have to make some decisions. And I don't mind doing that with other folks, but it's still going to have to be presented to the committee for their approval. So I would say that we can do this. We do have to. It's like Jasmine said. I remember a couple of years ago we talked about having a fundraising committee on our HRIC, and we never got to that. It didn't happen at some point. But we've got to continue to do this and do it pretty quickly, because we just can't keep going on. We're going to run people out. People are going to get tired. They're going to move on. And so what's your thought now? Where do you want to go, Johan, with it? And anybody else? And let's quickly move on to, I don't think we have another item, but I know it's getting late. We're pushing, I think town hall's closing in a couple of minutes.
We have 2 items and town hall's been closed since 7 p.m. So it's a public meeting. It could go all night, but please don't allow it that.
No. Do we need a motion to table this, but to move forward as diligently and as quickly as possible?
I mean, I can just say initially what I had said before was the what we left last meeting and what we mentioned this meeting is the action items that we really need from the town are financial support. And then Paul said that he was going to make a meeting with the town manager to discuss that. And the first 3 events, MLK, Black Excellence, and Pride, it was suggested that we partner with the high school / school district with that for support, more so than what we've had in the before, like an actual committee that exists on their side of whatever, 3 people that also works with us so that there's more than just Mary. And then Juneteenth, I didn't give anything. And then race amity, I actually said we should pause, but it sounds like it might move on anyways. And then Celebration maybe partner with the library. And even if that gives us additional committee members that are workers, that would be great, even if there is no budget attached to it or whatnot. Menorah lighting, we had all agreed that was a light lift, and we didn't think that any sort of partnership was needed there. So that was, and then advocacy, I think it's all over the map. So I'm gonna have to go through the notes because everybody said something different about those events.
Okay. I'm all set now. Anybody else have any other comments regarding what Johan just
I just have one further comment to make with regards to the specific things that we've enumerated tonight that we think that we should do. I think it would be very important for us to establish a budget for what we think is necessary to execute these events well and appropriately, and ensuring that we're making sure that the town and its citizens are aware of and able to participate, which is a function of communication and notification so that folks know how they can become involved. That requires establishing a budget for these events, the events. Then we can have the discussion of what do we have to do to get the resources for these events to take place. It seems as though to me that that's what the committee should be involved in doing. We established events that we think need to happen. We established a budget for those events to happen, and then we take the appropriate steps to get the resources so that those events can take place. That requires leadership of the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, and I think that's what we've been recruited onto these roles, onto this committee to do. So that's a step forward for us. I mean, it was a step forward for us to argue to get a position such as the one that you're occupying, Jasmine. It's years of work and discussion saying we need someone who can help facilitate this work. The next step is doing what we're talking about now, demonstrating that Danvers knows how to represent a broad range multicultural democracy, that we can speak to many different people in many different ways, appropriately and persuasively and with passion and concern and commitment. And Danvers has the ability to do this. We simply need to take the next step so that we can do it well.
Okay, now, I totally agree with Dr. Desmond, and we are taking steps right now to perform part of that, in that we were looking at the budgets of the previous events, and we're trying to determine before we meet with town officials as to what we're really looking for, what it takes to run an event, and then come to you folks, come to us and decide what we want to do and how we want to do it. So that's part of the plan right now. Go ahead, Jasmine.
I was going to say, I feel like we're 75% of the way there already. This
Yeah.
isn't the first time we're having this conversation. This is a conversation that Dee and Kristen brought up probably about a year ago. Kristen crunched numbers and put in we have numbers floating in places about what each event costs, like the budgets have been outlined, and that's where we had the number that Paul, that you and I have discussed. I don't know how much you want to talk about that, but that's where we got that number already, because that work went into here's approximately what was spent out of the budget between the line and the Friends. So that data is already there. I think what Dr. Charlie's saying that is missing, or is the last 25%, is that still, if we whittle down the events, does that number change? But we're not starting from scratch here. And I really need to reiterate that, because those conversations, specifically when Kristen was focusing on the treasury piece, was paying attention to that. I also want to, again, just elevate the chat. Karen saying, I'm not clear what is listed under advocacy is actually advocacy work. She also said we need to raise our profile in town, or more appropriately, raise the opportunity for others to engage with our mission and to share it. To clarify about the advocacy, as the one who kind of organized this, in events, I was thinking about the big picture things that are recurring, that are generally recurring, that are broad, obvious events. Advocacy was a little bit more challenging. I took this approach of splitting them this way because we are talking about what does it look like to have a co-vice chairship, in which case one vice chair would focus on events and one would focus on advocacy. I have also repeatedly heard the mantra of that we don't want to be pigeonholed as solely an events planning committee. And it does feel like the advocacy side of things is what needs to be built out more. What you're seeing here, that is advocacy. the Danvers Public School Cultural Read Aloud support, that's when we were showing up to when it was more public meetings and when there was more discussion based as opposed to them just sharing information. We were showing up to engage with residents who were pushing back against the gender identity piece in their curriculum. The scholarship I put under advocacy because that is human rights, and we are creating access, ideally, right? We are increasing access for kids, young people who would otherwise not be able to fully access opportunities in college with this scholarship. Living room conversation is a little more dicey, but because it focused so specifically on white identity as a majority identity, that did feel more along the advocacy lines because it's more educational and less celebration and fun. Danvers Cares, that is the school's monthly group that focuses on bullying, substance abuse, and violence prevention. Dee was going to those meetings, they're monthly, regularly at the high school, and that's something that got lost in the shuffle. And if we are talking about strengthening partnership with the schools, I do think someone from this committee is going to have to resume attending those monthly meetings. Emergency assistance families, literally everything that we've done in relation to emergency assistance families, I put under advocacy because, as has been mentioned, it's not going to be recurring work, but it was us supporting in what was a crisis. And that was how we were showing up. And then the Raise the Age campaign, if you don't remember, I mean, it's a campaign, that's the one that Kristen brought forward. We were actually trying to push and support policy. And so that is advocacy. Again, that's the part that does need to continue to be built out if that's what you want, but just information dumping so that no one's walking away with the same question that Karen has.
Okay, anything else on this topic other than we're going to have to work to revisit it again? I will say this to you all. Next meeting is, I believe it's the 18th, something like that, 17th. It'll be not Zoom, if I can help it. All right. We're going to have a heavy schedule that night. So there's going to be hopefully an election of a chair, full-time chair, and vice chairs, additionally to whatever the agenda is. Now we have two other items, RAMF debrief. Do you want to move on to that question?
Jorge was supposed to take that one, but he couldn't make it. Actually, I'm seeing MLK banner schedule. Also, just to confirm, the next meeting will be, it's the 19th. It's a Thursday, but I'll kick it to Karen for the banner schedule, and then I can do a quick thing on race amity.
Okay, Karen? The banner.
So, yes, thank you. The banner has been hanging in the Toomey room since the middle of June, and thanks to Lieutenant Rob, it's going to start moving on Monday. It's first, I sent out an email and I've had folks come back and say when they would like it. So this next 2-week period, starting on Monday, it will go to the town clerk's office. And so Lieutenant Rob, I'll be in touch with you tomorrow about that. And then after that, it is going to the library. The library asked for it after that. And so then there's one more spot to open it up for it to go before the start of the new school year. So I've got a conversation scheduled to meet with Mary about MLK Day. And so at the same time, I'll be, we'll make a strategy for it to move around the schools in the fall, and then it will come back to other locations. So I will actually just take this opportunity with Reverend Douglas still being on the call. If you are at all interested in having it at the church, sort of in that, there's sort of another 2-week period before school starts. If you'd love to have it there, we can slot you in. Otherwise, we'll get you later on after it's been to the schools. So there's an email from me earlier this week. You can take a look at it and shoot me an email. And
that sounds great. I'll touch base with you.
Okay, that's awesome. And I did something new this week. I created myself a new Gmail account to handle all of my HRIC email. So I'm taking leadership in my own life to bring some sanity to my committee work. I just have to remember to check it. That's,
Send me a message so I can respond, Karen. I've got something to talk with you about the banners, so send me a note and I'll tell you what I've been talking about.
okay, that's awesome.
Thank
I'll
you.
do that.
Thank,
Thanks.
then,
That's the banner and MLK.
mhm.
Anything else on, go ahead, Jasmine, you were going to report. Are there any questions on the banner schedule? Excuse me. Okay, thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. Jasmine?
Yep, race remedy went well. I think Dr. Charlie shared, like, in terms of pros and cons, like it was definitely hot on the blacktop. I mean, it's just hot in general out here. Like, it's just, there's no relief. The weather definitely worked against us because of how close a call it was with rain in the forecast, I think. I also, one of the areas that I would probably try to push for if we did continue is Beverly Youth showed up, and Lauren did a fantastic job of bringing that, but Danvers students really were not involved. And we had the high school librarian present, and I had hoped that we'd have more connections there, but that seemed to kind of like fall apart a little bit there. However, I think that beyond that, the panel, the interview was incredibly impactful. The youth panel, as always, is incredible. It was led by an amazing young woman. She's Haitian, I'm biased, but incredible young Beverly student. And the mix of live Greek band, Afro beats, dance instruction, like I don't think it gets any more multicultural than that. I do think we kind of hit aspects of all over the globe. So that was really great to see. And I think, again, despite the weather, I do think that one I would probably put us at around 30 to 40 people, even if it was like kind of clustered in waves of people, I would say. Anyone else who was there that would like to give feedback, please do.
All right. Any other discussion on what Jasmine just said? Thank you. Any new business anyone wants to bring up, please? I have a couple of things I want to mention, but
Just one brief thing. If anybody wants to get involved in advocacy, try going on the Facebook page known as the Danvers Public Square and see what we're facing out there. Don't comment, just read some of the bullshit. It's incredible.
we don't have a 5-second delay here.
Sorry about the language, but I've been trying to carry the water for the committee and for the office, and I got my hands full. So just see what we're dealing with the other side. Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
All right, that's okay. Anyone else?
Recruitment. I just spaced. I have one person that I'm aware of who's interested but has not yet applied. I also was sent, I don't know who in the building sent it because they scanned it, but someone who just put that they're generally interested in committees, but they did name specifically planning and zoning. So I don't know that that's a right fit, but I'm happy to pass that along with Paul. For everyone who has mentioned to me that they know of someone, get your friends to put pen to paper or start typing because I have not seen any. And we are 2 positions down. And Dave, I'm almost wondering if your energy is better suited in the committee than on Facebook at this point. Just to earlier points about raising the awareness that Karen made about elevating the committee's presence in the community. But yeah, send me recruits, please. Send me them.
I do have one person. I won't mention the name, but it's a young person who has recently graduated, who has expressed an interest in getting on the committee also. So I've encouraged that. Does anyone else have any new business they would like to speak to?
I'm going to sneak this in under new business. It occurred to me when we were talking about some event pieces. It's something I wanted to do. I hope that we could do for MLK last year. We'll do it for MLK this year. But I would love to see us have business partners along Maple Street and in other places in the community. So think about the businesses that you frequent and basically ask, could we, every time, we're bringing down our number of events, possibly, But making a flyer for an event is not difficult, and it is old school. But if we get more social media access and we go old school, and with these business partners, we can put flyers up in their windows. And like each of us would have like business partners that would agree to take our flyers. Then that's just like, we just have to be like in front of people's faces so that they can't discount us, right? Like that we're just like a known entity and we become mainstream, because I think right now we're like highly, again, we make it very easy for people to opt out because they don't see themselves, they don't think this is for them. And it's for the community. And this is about being a strategic Danvers.
Good. Any other comments? All right, I have one. I did want to mention that in passing, we lost one of our former members, Kathy Sullivan Bradley. She passed away, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago now. And we did, they listed a couple of charities, and we, as a committee, decided to, not sure how I did it, but I might have broken every rule a chairman could break, but we decided with Friends, cooperation of Friends, Charles and Dave, that we would send a check to Care Dimensions in her memory, which we did. And I will notify her husband. I do need a little help though, maybe John Bradley. Does anyone have a number for anything, D may have a number. I'd like to call him at least and let him know. And I told him we were going to do that at the wake when I was there at the service. So just want to let you all, we did make that donation. Yasmin was right. The meeting is on the 19th. I'm having trouble with my 7s and 9s. But we'll see you all then. If anything comes up, I don't know, enjoy your summer, take time off, relax. If something comes up throughout the town, you need me to get involved some way, somehow, either Jasmine or I think you all have my email address. I'm not going to give you my phone number right now, but if you need me to get a text, I'm not putting that out. So anyway, if there's nothing else to discuss, could we have a motion to adjourn?
I
So
moved
moved.
to adjourn.
And we have a motion by who? Karen? I didn't know.
Charlie.
All right, we have a motion from Johan and seconded by Dave, I think. In favor, all those in favor of closing the meeting, adjourning the meeting, signify by raising your hand. All right. I think we have a count. So,
Aye.
all right. Have a great night. Thanks for all your help. I really appreciate it. I'll try to smooth everything out by next September, temporarily. All right. Nice to see
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you.
meeting.
Thank you, DCAT.
Great
Take
meeting.
care, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.